So for electric vehicles, the big elephant in the room is recharging and charging stations. That's what everybody's worried about. What's my range? Where can I recharge? Am I going to be able to take a trip? And there's a lot of effort and projects in the works from the federal government to make recharging more ubiquitous. How's that working out? And what's that mean for you as a consumer? Here are the key aspects of that plan. First of all, this is a $5 billion investment by the federal government over the next 3 years or so. $5 billion. That's huge. And the way they're doing it is they're allocating that to the states to have the states do it at the local level. Now, this may be a disappointment. Some people wanted a national network of charging stations owned by the federal government, but that's not how they're doing it. They're issuing to the states, and the states might use private enterprise to do this. So it's a big project. And the Department of Energy has a list of all the plans that every state has put together, state by state, what the actual funding is and what the plans are. So you can see that link will be on our website for what the states are going to do. The key points, the pain points for this are uptime and charging speeds. Uptime is, do the charging stations work? And right now, you're going to find that a lot of charging stations may not be inoperable. Some places, you're talking about things being broken, that they're only up 2/3 of the time or 80% of the time. You know, that may seem like a lot, but what if your cell phone only worked 80% of the time, or gas stations were only open 2/3 of the time? This is a mission critical life or death safety thing to be able to charge your car. And if the charging stations aren't working, that's not really going to help you any. So uptime is important. And there's a difference between a charging station and a gas station. A gas station has attendants on site that if something goes wrong, they know about it right away. They can fix it. They may have parts there. They may have repair procedures. Charging stations are usually unmanned. They're not staffed. That may change, but right now they're not staffed. So if something breaks, yeah, there'll be a notification, but it may take days or weeks to get that station fixed. Uptime is a big deal. The other part is how fast. There's level 3 and level 2s. Level 3, you can charge a car if it's available in 20 or 30 minutes. Level 2 might be 2 or 3 hours. There's very few level 3s. So most of the time you have to wait a couple hours to fully charge your car. You may be able to charge it enough to get to where you're going, but level 2s are kind of borderline mediocre and almost non-usable. And here's where it gets interesting. The amount of power that's needed. Charging speeds have gone up from 7 kilowatts to now 150 kilowatts for a charging station. Most sites don't have that kind of power. If you look at an average gas station, the entire site uses 50 kilowatts of power. So if you have a charging station with 4 chargers, that could be 600 kilowatts. Not feasible. You're getting into megawatts of utility infrastructure. Few areas outside of major highway corridors have the electrical capacity to support DC chargers, level 3. So this is a big deal. This is not just slapping together a charging station, because a charging station really is not that much. It's actually easier to build than a gasoline station. Gasoline station, you have to dig a hole in the ground, put in a tank, have very, very strict environmental safety things for fuel, liquid fuel on site. There's a database of what they call LUST, leaking underground storage tanks. And to get storage tanks put in the ground, it has to be triple wall with certain things around it. It's very difficult to get gas station construction approved. Charging stations is no big deal. You don't have to dig a hole in the ground. There's no tank. There's just an electrical, basically a fancy plug, but it uses a lot of power. And most places in the country don't have enough bandwidth of electricity to support level 3s. This is not an easy fix. To change that, you have to completely change the infrastructure of the electrical grid. Forget about even if the grid can support that much power, it's getting it to that place. Wires underground, wires on a pole, it's a completely different network. The last factor of deploying this is there's a Buy American clause in this bill for the infrastructure, which, you know, obviously we all want to buy American and support our country. However, many of the parts that go into EV charging stations, the computers, the controllers, the plugs, there's no factories in the US that makes them right now. All the factories are overseas. So if you are only allowed to buy American, they're not available to buy American. Even if you wanted to, even if the price was higher, there's no factories. Now that may change. There may be companies that roll these out, but All of these are not addressed yet. Do you have enough capacity? Are these things going to be up and working? This is the main obstacle to getting an EV charger every 50 miles, and what the plan is, and how to use this billion-dollar program to get a network of chargers that people can rely on to get from A to B with an EV.